I've got a legend with me today, guys. The Casey Kasem of bodybuilding, Bob Cicherillo. Welcome to the show. I don't know how many people are going to get the Casey Kasem reference, but he's the voice of bodybuilding. Bob, thanks for taking the time.
Well, here's a more obscure one. Keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars, brother. So there you, for all you Casey Kasem
See,
fans. But
there you
here,
go, Dice.
most more people would know Casey Kasem, not from the top 40, because we're old and I'm older than you, but more that he was the voice of a lot of cartoon characters, including
Was
Shaggy from Scooby
Shaggy?
Doo.
That's right.
He
But
did most of the
did a ton
voices
of
on Scooby
Hanna-Barbera.
Doo.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
So,
Phenomenal talent, phenomenal talent. So,
anyway,
so I know you're busy. I know you're off to Olympia next week or tomorrow.
tomorrow, yeah.
So, what keeps you fired up after all these years of doing it?
Well, that is a good question. Love of the game, honestly. Most people know my background. I won't bore everybody with that, but I started out as a young, barely a teenager, got into bodybuilding, competing. Of course, you wanted to be Mr. Olympia and the pro bodybuilder, and move out to California and live in the dream and all that good stuff. And I did it. It took me a little while, but I got there. And because I've always loved bodybuilding, even though I was into many other sports throughout my entire life, bodybuilding just always seemed to be what I loved most. So, it's like that old cliche saying, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life or whatever that is. And it continues. This will be my 20th year on the microphone on the Olympia stage, much to the chagrin of all those the tens of people that signed the petition out there to get me removed and all
I,
that
I
stuff.
I
So,
saw that. I saw that. Absolutely silly and ridiculous. And I mean, I would hazard a bet that they're of a certain age and below,
yeah,
and
of
not,
course.
kind of the upper ilk type of thing.
Well, most of the people I've noticed, and I'm sure you have too. Listen, I'm obvious. I'm going to be almost. I'll be 60 in another month or two, and
We're looking all right for, I'm 53.
yeah,
We're
there you
looking
go.
all
There you
right. We're
go.
looking all right.
So we come from a different era, a different time, a different place, a different everything. We grew up with the magazines. We grew up in, the toughest bodybuilding era, and things like that. So now that we're both, north of 50, we fall into that category now to the younger generation of, the angry old man.
Yep.
Okay, that we just don't embrace the modern, and we, of course, we think everything was greater back then, and all that stuff. And listen, for the most part, unfortunately, we're right. And
Yep.
that's just the way it goes.
Yep.
Yes, bodybuilding was tougher back then. Yes, it was a higher caliber of competitor. Yes, the lineups were deeper. These are just facts. They're not our opinions. Are there some good bodybuilders out there or not? Yes, of course there are. But in a day that the top 10, if you go look back, like I did see an ad for the Olympia that said the deepest lineup ever. And I thought to myself, listen, I get the whole hype train and all that stuff, but is it really the deepest lineup ever? And the answer is absolutely not.
Yep.
You can go back to 99, 2000, again, anywhere in the 90s pretty much. And those are some pretty deep.
Dude, from 1 to 10,
Yeah.
they're all in the hunt today for winning. So it was deep from first place to 10, 11, 12. It was deep.
Well, oddly enough, you talk about like, full circle, and I'm like one of those numbers guys. Like I think that there's always some weird thing with numbers. And, like Dexter Jackson had his, first Olympia, he was ninth. And on his last Olympia, 20 years later, he was ninth, so it's just one of those
Yes, yes, yes.
weird
Yeah.
cyclical type things in life that you see. And when all that Nick stuff broke out earlier in the year, we were kind of going back and forth. And he says, who the F is Bob? And I, said, oh, well, I'm the guy that's going to be announcing you an eighth and all this stuff, right? And we were kind of having some fun with it. Interestingly, I looked up because I says, look, this guy would have had a hard time back in my day even getting a pro card,
Mm.
much less doing well in the pros. And I looked up, people like to bring up me and Marcus Rule going at it at the 2002 Night of the Champions.
Yep.
And I looked up that year. I believe I'm on the same year. And guess who was eighth place at the Olympia that year?
Oh,
Marcus Rule.
yes.
so,
See?
so just to kind of show everybody, it's like
See?
this guy, this freak of nature,
Yeah, yeah. This
okay,
German beast got eight. And
was
we all know
eighth.
what, yeah.
So, it just kind of shows a point. But, get back to your original question, what keeps me fueled up? Well, the love of the sport, of course, number one, tradition, number two.
Yeah.
I've actually survived three administrations on there where I started with Weider back in the early 2000s with the Olympia. My first being '06 with Sean Ray,
Yep.
the Jay Cutler win over Ronnie, and then it's just continued through Weeder, through AMI, and now with Jake Wood in the current administration. So it's been a great ride. I've actually seen the 40th, the 50th, and the 60th anniversary of the Olympia. So it's pretty cool. Let's face it, man. It still beats a real job.
It really does. And that's I'm I'm super jealous of that type of stuff. I love it. I knew I was never going to be on the athlete side of things, but I had those same dreams, right?
Sure.
Watching He-Man growing up, all right, and comic books, and then muscle mags, right? And I wanted to go to California. I wanted to, I dreamt about being
Sure.
a bodybuilder type thing. And I took a different route and stuff, and I was involved in the back end a little bit. I did personal training, and then I used to manage health food shops, sup shops,
There's
right?
much more money on the back end.
There is, well, 100%. Um, and I worked with Robert Kennedy.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I managed
Well,
his
I loved
muscle.
Robert.
I managed his muscle mag shop in Toronto.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Yeah.
Okay. So that was kind of me living the dream, right? We would have great Kovacs come in for
Right.
signings and other pros, and it was great, right? But I found my way back into bodybuilding through social media, and it just I was in the right place, the right time with Mutant, and I got on board running their social, and it just kind of snowballed. I just love the sport, much like you. So amazing stuff. Now we touched on Jake Wood a little bit. Where do you see his long-term vision for bodybuilding? Yeah, we've got production value, prize money, athlete experiences.
To be honest with you, I'm not really involved a lot in those talks, oddly enough.
Okay.
I've got plenty of ideas and things. I'm at a point in my career where I'll pretty much wait for somebody to come to me if my opinion is valued or warranted. So I'm not exactly sure where their vision is. I mean, listen, clearly Jake has done some great things. First and foremost, he doesn't get enough credit for keeping the Olympia going through COVID because if you're going by pure financing and things like that, return, he absolutely should have shut this thing down for a year, if not two, as the
Yeah.
rest of the world shut down. There was going to be a negative return. It cost him a lot of money, but he wanted to do it in the interest of keeping the tradition alive. Our 61-year run that Joe Weider started back in '65. So he should get full credit for that. He should also get full credit for bumping it up in terms of prize monies
Yep.
for the athletes. And listen, he has paid substantial monies out there. A lot of people don't know a lot of the back end. We have over 400 athletes now that qualify. Now, there's been some changes implemented for next year that are going to come in with a point system that will take out the top four divisions because some of those would be north of 100 next year
Yeah.
as the pro league continues to evolve and to grow, especially worldwide. So that said, anybody can do this simple math. You're looking at about $3,000 per athlete for plane fare, hotel accommodations, and actual per diem. That's the money they give them for food
Yep.
and expenses. Okay.
Yep.
Well, 400 athletes times three, I'm no mathematician, is
Neither am I, but
$1.2 million. Okay.
wow.
Now, as most people know, out of those 400 athletes, you might know 100 of them.
Yep.
Okay. The vast majority nobody's heard of in terms of unless you're from that area or one of their
Friends and
fans,
family.
in
Yeah, yeah,
their
yeah, yeah.
respective
Yep.
place. So it's a lot of money to put out there for a lot of people that are going to step on the stage for a limited amount of time and not really be contenders. So again, he must get credit for that. Again, a lot of people don't know that, but um, luckily with the changes, this will cut down on the overall amount of people. Well, I'm all for opportunity and expanding it. You also got to understand that this is the best of the best. And like every other sport in this earth, there are cuts. Semifinals, quarterfinals, round one, round two, round three, again, whatever you want to look at. You can look at golf, you can look at tennis, you can look at anything. When you're watching a golf tournament, you're watching the Masters tournament. Well, not everybody plays on Sunday. Not everybody's playing for that green jacket. You
Right,
have to get
right.
through to survive the cut, survive the next round, and then there's only X amount that move on. And that's certainly somewhere where we need to be going in the next couple of years because it's gotten a little crazy. And some of it's just logistics. The other half of that, Matt, is, listen, I'm on stage. One of the people that gets affected the most about this has been me. I've got to announce 400 and some odd people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and listen, when I say me, listen, it's not just about me. Okay, yeah, I'm up there, my feet are killing me, and trying to hang on to your
Working on
voice
your
for three
voice.
days.
Yeah. Yeah.
But judges got to sit there that entire time. Expediters, God bless them, they do more work than anybody. They've got to sit there running back and forth for days on end. So it's a big draw on
Yeah.
everybody in terms of energy, in terms of your health.
And I think a
And
lot of
let's not.
unsung heroes there, right? I
Oh
mean,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Believe me, the staff and what they have to go through is crazy. But let's not forget the most important part of that is you don't want to shortchange the athletes that have qualified and to get there. I don't care what the system is. It is what it is. It's not the athlete's fault. What we've gotten into a point though is we've had to reduce the amount of time for comparisons, for
yeah,
individual
right.
presentations, and you don't really want to go there. I would much rather see half of those athletes get their full time than double the amount of athletes get 20 seconds on stage
Yeah.
because it's honestly not doing anybody a service. So we'll see where the vision goes. Hopefully, we're going to move back to an arena type format. I always thought that was best for growth, for all things considered. I do think the time frame is going to move up into September. I have heard that,
Oh,
which
okay.
again,
Yeah.
I'm welcome to. I would like to see um, changes in terms of the scheduling. I'd like to see a more concerted effort to get shows closer together because it's very difficult for athletes when shows are so spread out to
Yeah.
do multiple shows. You want to kind of stack them on top of each other.
Yeah.
So
You got to
these
kind
are,
of save yourself, right? So because,
well, you have to pick a run. Like you're going to
yeah.
pick the early
Yeah.
run with the Arnold and then maybe the Detroit and Pittsburgh and whatever, or you're going to kind of wait till the latter end. But there's almost a break in the middle because you can't compete. This is bodybuilding. This ain't golf. This ain't tennis. This ain't anything. Okay, you can't go through. You can only go through so many diet phases in a
Yeah.
year.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And,
And actually
and
survive it,
well, and
so
you don't. Well, and the last thing you want, man, is to you do survive it. You get to the Olympia, and you look the worse at the Olympia stage than you did all year because
yeah.
your body's hammered.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we'll see where the vision goes. Again, there's some good people in place that I'd like to see a lot of changes, but we'll see what the future holds.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for the future of it. Um, Switching gears for a second, I'm from Canada. I'm from Toronto,
I'm not going
and
to hold that against you. Yeah.
please don't, please don't. Um, but I know you've been to Canada countless times for shows and whatnot. What's your take on the current state of Canadian bodybuilding? Has it died with Cbum? Does Regan still have a chance? Is there a future for Regan wise? What do you think?
Well, I'll tackle that separately because there's a lot to be said on Regan. But it's funny because all the Canadians live in America now. So,
Sure enough.
um,
So can we really call them Canadian, right?
yeah, I guess by proxy, yeah. But that's okay. Listen, Canada, unfortunately, Canada got the short end of the stick years and years ago because of the system. Canada ran under Raphael and the old system of getting pro cards and such. They had a system for years that didn't reward almost anybody. They get two pro cards a year. It
Right.
was absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Much like Europe, which was why a lot of the European athletes back then either competed in NABA or a different federation, or they would just kind of trickle into the pro league. And the funny thing is back then is they would kind of they were trying to pitch that blame on Jim Mannion and the pro league. And the bottom line is, it's like, look, we didn't have anything to do with it. It was whoever they wanted to send our way to allow to get pro cards.
Okay, yeah.
And they would do some goofy shit out there. I mean, not Canada per much, although they did some weird stuff too. I know where they'd have like the guy who won the show. Then they would award another pro card to whoever they felt had the most promise, which
Yeah.
was the weirdest thing. It wasn't anybody.
That's
You
super
could have been
weird. That's
you could have
super
been
weird.
fifth place, but they thought you were going places, and they give you
Oh
a pro
yeah.
card. So, and in Europe, they would have an overall, and it took me a while to figure this out because when we had the split
Yep.
with Raphael and the IFBB Europe, we'll call it. I had a whole bunch of athletes as I was the athletes rep at the time contacting me, wanting to get a pro card or wanting to get consideration, and it became apparent like we weren't on the same page talking because I'm like, well, some girl would contact me and say, I won the bikini division. I didn't get my pro card. And I'm like, well, why didn't you get your pro card? And she said, well, I didn't win the overall. I'm like, well, you won your class? She says, no, I won the bikini division, but I didn't win the overall. And I'm like, all right, I'm missing something here.
Yeah,
Like, how
yeah,
does
yeah,
this?
something's not.
This doesn't make any sense. Well, I finally figured it out. What they would do is all the winners of the respective divisions would compete for an overall. That
And
means the
then that
bikini
person would get
winner,
so bikini, so like the early days of the UFC. So
yes,
different weight classes.
yeah. The bikini winner, the bodybuilding winner, the 212 winner, the women's physique winner, the fitness winner, they would literally all go up there and compete for an overall pro. And I was like, well, no wonder this doesn't make any sense, right? But so they would basically kind of judge it on like who they thought was kind of the best in their respective division to move on. But really, all it was a money scheme to keep them in the turnstile over there to keep them giving them dues. So
That's pretty shady.
oh well, there's a lot. Listen, that's a whole nother show. There's a lot of shady, but anyway, so Canada, unfortunately, for years, kind of fell behind in terms of athletes they could have been pushing out, but. We've had some good athletes over the years, and certainly Cbum put a cap on that with the last 6 years of victories. Regan Grimes that you mentioned, um, interestingly, I've always been a big Regan fan of his physique. I've often linked him to he's a white Samson.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah. I can see that.
Listen, round muscle bellies, tall kid, good looking, presents himself well, full muscle bellies, doesn't have a lot of weaknesses. His only weakness was the same one Samson had, which is conditioning.
Yeah.
And you've got to bring that conditioning up to par. And I took a little heat this year. It's interesting because I did a critique, and one of the guys I critiqued was Regan Grimes. And I said, he won one of the shows or whatever and said something about wanting to, contend for the top six. I said, listen, first of all, I gave every accolade I just gave right now. None of that was reported at all. Okay. The only thing that was reported was I says, well, if he thinks that physique is going to be in the top six, I'm here to tell you that's probably not going to happen. Okay. Like he's kind of looking more 10, 11, 12, 13. And, maybe, listen, if he's trying to perfect his physique, maybe he should sit out another year to get his physique up to that level. And I took all kinds of shit for this from people. Oh, you're bad mouthing Regan. Oh, you're bad mouthing.
They
Who are
forget
you?
everything you said prior. They pluck that
Yeah.
and they run with that.
Well, the
I,
funny
I can't stand
Matt,
that.
the worst part, the funniest part was, and I've always gotten along with Regan. We're not enemies by any stretch. We've
Mhm.
always been very friendly. I've always been very supportive of his physique because I think he's got a Mr. Olympia physique, just not right now, right?
Right.
And even he got on one of the threads and he said something about, well, I believe that anytime you qualify for an Olympia, you should absolutely go. So basically, I'm not sitting now. He wasn't really coming at me, so to say, but more just saying, hey, if you qualify, you need to go to the Olympia, period. No
Yeah.
questions about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Except for one thing. Just a few years ago, he was qualified, 2022 maybe, or a couple of years ago, and pulled out of the show because he didn't like the way he looked.
I remember that. You're right.
Right? So it's like, well, wait a minute.
A little bit
Now
of
you're
about
contradicting
face.
yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm the bad guy for suggesting that maybe you should hold on until listen, you have a physique of that caliber. It's just not there right now, in my opinion. But he did the very essence of what I just suggested. So, I don't put too much stock into this stuff. I get it. And Egan has a good chance of being a superstar if he can just get that Achilles heel of conditioning under wraps.
Yeah. I agree. And he's got all the makings for it. And it's just, we've talked about it for years that he's got all the tools, right?
Oh, yeah.
He's got all the tools in the toolbox and he just needs to pull that in. So I think he's going to do it eventually, type of thing. But I mean, getting the hate and the vitriol for just suggesting something actually constructive and it's not bad
Right.
is just mind-boggling. But I mean, you have to deal with this type of stuff all the bloody time, and your skin has to be as thick can be because
Well, listen, some of it's
and
just
plus
logic,
we're of the age too, right? We're of the age.
right?
We don't give a whole lot of fucks
No.
about much. at our age. So
Well, I'm from New York. Those were given out years ago, okay, and never replenished. But um, some of it's just using your head and common sense. I got to give Dave Palumbo credit because he kind of came to my defense the other day. He was doing a show with your old buddy Matt, affectionately known as Mr. Potato Head out there,
uh,
and he was actually defending, Matt trying to get Dave on his side. Of course, what do you think about Bob? What do you think about Bob Cicherillo and his comments? And Dave says Bob can say whatever he wants. And you can tell, like, circuits were, there were sparks coming out of Matt's ears and stuff.
yeah.
And he was like, yeah, but don't you think, he's trashing these guys and he's telling them this and, and he's telling them that. And who is he, and all that. And Dave says, look at one, I'm going to defend Bob's right to free speech like I would anybody's. Okay. Number
First
one.
and
Two,
foremost. Yeah.
it's a whole separate capacity. He says, well, yeah, but he's the Olympia MC. He says, right. And on the Olympia stage, I don't know. I've never heard Bob say one thing. You think like Bob would say like, "Hey, here comes this, competitor A, and yeah,
Could
he's
you
kind of
imagine?
blocky, and
I don't think he's going to really score well today in
yeah."
tonight's event, but
But
here he is, number two.
yeah, but hey, welcome him anyways, everybody. He sucks, but hey, he's here, right? And and I got to give Dave credit because we've had our battles over the years, but we're both Italian, and like any Italian family, you can have an argument at dinner,
Yes,
and
yes,
but by
yes.
the time you're throwing the game on later, nobody really gives a shit. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
he couldn't swing mad at the end of the day because it's such a stupid argument of, listen, it's got nothing to do with me announcing. I have always been a professional on stage, always will be, whether I like an athlete, don't like an athlete, or anything in between. They all get the same respect. They all get the same treatment. You put the athletes first on stage as an MC. I don't think I'd be doing this for 20 plus years if it was anything different than that. But again, you got to use your head in some of these things and consider the source, unfortunately.
You know, with social media, I think there's so much of this that is just so easily regurgitated and just thrown out there. Back in the day, it was the magazines, right? And
Correct.
we had to wait 30 days to
Oh, yeah, at
to,
least.
to get the latest gossip. Um, and to be honest, I miss that vibe. I would much rather pick that vibe over this vibe now.
Yeah, listen, you had pure professionals back then in Robert Kennedy, Peter McGuff, Sean Perrine, Greg Merritt. Um, a lot of the writers back then were experts.
Yeah,
All of the writers were experts. That's why they were writing for the major magazines. Fletch, Muscle and Fitness, Muscular Development, Muscle Training Illustrated, Iron Man,
yeah, yeah.
So the writers were experts. And let me tell you, they weren't always the kindest to you in terms of critique. They
No,
critiqued it the way they saw it. Most of these guys would never have survived these days back then because of the
no,
current.
no, man, they'd be
But
so butthurt.
but we didn't have 5,000 people, 1.2 million people, right, telling you how great you are. Okay.
Yeah,
That is a false positive. Okay. That's people wrapping themselves up in bubble wrap. Okay. And insulating themselves. And you know what? I'm just going to turn off the haters. I actually told Samson, he was getting some flack last year, the year before. And, we were talking just off the cuff, and he mentioned something about, blocking them. And I says, you know what? Don't do that. He says, what do you mean? He says, why would I not do that? I says, I'll tell you why. Because you need to listen to that kind of stuff. Okay. You don't block them, answer them. Okay. Put an answer into some. Now we're not talking about some complete troll who's just, their whole point is just to talk now. You can tell who's who. I mean, listen, I can name on one hand the amount of people I've actually blocked just because they're complete idiot. The rest of them, I'll let them hang themselves,
yeah,
or I'll press them on a question, and if they can't answer the question, or I'll,
yeah,
at least I'll put, I'll put it in a certain sense. Listen, I'll go toe to toe with anybody in like kind. You want to act like an idiot? I'll treat you like an idiot. You want to act like a, respectable guy, or you got some questions? I'll treat you like that. But make no mistake, the level of pussification that's gone on lately is so egregious, so over the top that they can't separate. Like if I give a critique and say somebody is blocky and they're not particularly well put together or whatever, I don't care who the guy is, right? I'm automatically labeled as a hater, right? Or you're trashing the athletes. It's like,
yeah.
that's not trashing the athlete. Again, this is no different than Joe Rogan years ago, when his podcast started, and he used to call the UFC main events,
Yeah.
and he would go on his podcast and they would have guests on, or he would critique fighters or talk about whatever. And then he would go and do the play by play, or Tom Brady or Troy Aikman or anybody that does what they
Anybody in this.
do
Yeah.
right. And then goes on to call the whatever, the Super Bowl, the World Series, whatever the
And
NBA
they're super
finals.
professional, like they would be, like they naturally are, type of thing. And people conflate criticism or opinion with bad intentions or being
Or
mean
bashing them. Yeah.
or right. And it's just why don't we go back to normal? Like
Well,
because that's not
again,
normal, man.
because people, again, they have a hard time with criticism these days.
Yeah.
You get
Yeah.
criticized and you're the bad guy. You're a hater, you're negative, all that stuff. And because people have adopted this type of mentality, they can't deal with the reality of life. I have seen people do critiques of bodybuilding shows, and because they're trying to be Switzerland out there, they end up with, 12 guys in the top five. Wow,
Yeah.
this guy looks great. Should be in the first call out. Well, that guy, yeah, he absolutely brought it. He absolutely going to be in the first call out. It's like, well, how many guys are going to be in the first call out, and how many guys are in the top five?
Yeah.
Okay, but that is a far cry. If I say somebody has the high lat insertions, okay, or they're blocky, or they're soft, right? They listen. They missed the boat. They're holding a ton of water. I've seen this guy better before. That's not bashing somebody. That's giving an expert critique of their physique. And I've used this analogy before. It's no different to me. The difference to them is they can't separate themselves from their physique.
Mm.
All right, there's a difference. If you had an old Ford Edsel, right, and I says, man, I'm a Chevy guy, man. I got to be honest, like that is the ugliest car I've ever
Right.
seen. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's like the worst looking piece of shit. Fords suck, right? Would you? I mean, you wouldn't take it. Now, listen. You may sit there and go, "I know you're a Chevy guy, Bob. I get it, right? I know you don't
Yeah.
like Ford,
Yeah. You don't know
but you
what you're
wouldn't
talking
take
about.
it personally.
No. No.
You wouldn't say, "Oh,
No.
geez, Bob hates my guts. Why is he talking this trash
No.
about
I might
me?"
razz you about something.
You might, right? But
That's
I
it.
heard a great response. I got to give always credit where it's due. I heard a great response from Urs Kalachinsky the other day, who was on a podcast. I can't remember whose it was, and the question to him came was, Sean Ray has been critical recently that even though you've qualified for the Olympia, that maybe you should sit out
Right.
and basically get ready for next year. And he thinks you'd be in a better position to place in the top six next year. And Urz's response was great, and I got to give him credit. He kind of smiled and he went, "That's cool." He said, "Yeah,
Yeah.
He says, "Well, yeah, but that's what Sean said." And he's like, "Yeah, that's cool." He's entitled to his opinion. Sean's been around a long time. He's a
It's
top
Sean
Olympian.
Ray.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he says I can appreciate that. He says now I don't agree. He says I'm going to go to the Olympia, but I can respect his opinion. Now that's the way
See, that's
I
normal,
hope
Bob.
that is normal, right?
Yeah.
Even Nick, I got to give Nick credit, right? Because me and him were going at it,
Yeah.
but me and Nick were texting on the side and having a field day. It's the fans that actually went ballistic. He didn't put that much stock into it. He's
No,
like, "Yeah,
no,
that's
no.
cool." He's like, "Bro, I get it," And I go, "Yeah, thanks for being a good sport about it." He's like, "Yeah, no problem." I say, "Man, you got one of those, who the F is Bob shirts and a 2X?" He's like, "Yeah, absolutely." So, and again, it's not that
Yeah.
serious, people, but
Yeah. Yeah.
just
Yeah.
because I don't like a guy's physique doesn't mean I don't like him. But guess what? Most of the people's physiques I don't have in the top five. So, if you're going to label me a hater because I don't have everybody winning, you got the wrong guy.
You got the wrong guy. Well, it's funny. We're talking about the print magazines and a little beef and stuff like this. I want to see if I can share something here
All
because I
right,
was
sir.
flipping through an old magazine. Let's see. Can you see this?
Sophisticated, bro. Yeah. Who is that? Is that Milos? No, it's me.
Yeah.
Is that bottom shot me too?
No, that's Milos.
No,
But
yeah. Okay, so we get confused for each other all the time. By the
all
way,
the
it's
time,
funny.
all the time, all the time. But look at this. Craig Titus, as we all know, has a running feud with King Kamali and Bob Cicherillo. Craig feels he has well and truly put these guys behind him, and with his clear-cut victory over both of them at Night as Champions, and he goes on to call you Heckle and or I don't know
Heckle and Jekyll or something.
Heckle and Jekyll or something like that, and yeah. Do you remember any of this?
Oh yeah. Hey, scan down. Let me see that picture of myself up there. I can't. All I see is an arm. So there we go. Look at that guy,
Here,
man.
can I,
You know what's funny is most people these days, a lot of the younger competitors have no idea that I used to compete or was a pro.
they don't they don't, man. And I mean, you know, flipping through the magazines back in the day, I saw you all the time, and your build was fucking great, man. I mean, your arms were phenomenal. Your biceps were like just stupid.
That's all synthol according to
All
Titus
synthol,
at the
all
time.
synthol. Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you zoom in, you can see a little leakage going on.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
but
I got that from Greg Kovacs. He let
right,
me
right, right,
borrow
right.
it.
Exactly, exactly. Um,
So here's a funny story for you, though. Speaking of that, is so when I moved out to California, I won the USA, signed a contract with GNC. Boom, I was on the next flight out to LA to do the
yep,
bodybuilding thing,
yep,
living the dream.
yep,
Okay,
yep.
so I get out there. Tom Prince, God bless him, was a very close friend of mine, and he was kind of going to guide me into moving to LA, and we trained together and all that. And he didn't like Titus. Him and Titus didn't get along. Titus really didn't get along with a whole bunch of people, but
No, 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 we did.
they didn't like each other either. But I remember we were talking one time, and I had competed a few times, and I had beaten Craig. Um, and or no, I'm sorry, it was before we competed. And I remember Craig was always cordial to me. I mean, I didn't really have any issue with him until later. But um, I says, I got to be honest, Tom. I says he's always been nice to me. Like he's never really said anything. And he kind of laughed and he goes, yeah. He says, wait until you beat him, okay? Then we'll see. I said, oh, okay. And I'll be damned. The second I beat him in a couple of shows in '01 or '02 or whatever. And sure as shit, as soon as I beat him, he was out and with that kind of stuff, accusing me of using synthol, which is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But all of a sudden, he didn't like me. All of a sudden, it was politics and all this other stuff. And
Funny,
Tommy he
funny
was
how
dead
that.
on the money. I'm like, there it is.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
says, yeah, when you were no threat to him, of course he liked you. He says, no, you're the bad guy. But um, unfortunately, it didn't turn out too good for Craig. Not that nobody could have seen that coming, but um,
Let me share something else. What? No, not this. Not this. Uh,
I don't even have that issue. I don't know what issue that is, but
okay, dude, this was funny.
now that I remember.
Do you remember
So,
this? Myrtle
so
the
that,
turtle. I
so
started laughing.
I can't remember who it was, either me and Tommy or me and King or all three of us. But
Yeah.
that was in Peter McGuff's office. He had a whiteboard there, and the whole Titus thing was coming around and this and that. And so I got drawing on this thing, and I put this drawing of Craig on there because he always had the problems with his midsection,
Titus
because of Titus.
101.
Hang on. Sorry. Do I still got you?
Yep.
Okay. And yeah, so we were just poking around and having some fun, and I was poking fun at Craig and all that. But Craig was a big tough guy until sorry, getting some balls in here.
That's okay.
He was a big tough guy until confronted. He was a guy that was always a tough guy to people that were weaker and smaller than him. And he didn't know what to make out of me. But we were going back and forth. If you remember Get Big back
Yep,
in the
yep,
days and the
yep.
bodybuilding boards, for those that can want to look that up. We were going back and forth on something or other, probably all that synthol stuff and accusing me of this and that. And the USA was coming up, which was always in Las Vegas. All the pros would go to the USA back then, just to be a part of the USA and whatever. So we're going back and forth online, and finally I just had enough, and I go, look, man, I'll tell you what, I'll see you at the USA, and we'll see what you got to say then. Well, okay, a big tough guy, right? And so we get to the show. It was at the UNLV at the time, Artemis Ham Hall, and I walked in the doors. Sorry, I walk in the doors and I see Craig, and he's holding court. There's probably, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 guys kind of kicking around. Everybody's just kind of shooting the breeze. I beeline right for him. And Ron Avedon, who was the Get Big curator,
Yep.
happened to be right on the inside. And he says, oh, Craig. He knew everything that was going on. So, boom, he's right beside me. And I shoot over there and I kind of break into the middle of their little conversation. And I go, hey, I said, so I'm here. What do you want to do? And he just kind of looks at me like he doesn't really know what to do because nobody really confronts him ever. I says, you want to go outside or, you want to roll around in the parking lot? What do you want to do?
Yep, yep.
And he didn't know what to, so he's like, oh, well, oh, hey, bro, just come on, come over here. Let's talk, now you want to talk. Okay. So we went off to the side and, he basically, let his guard down. And he's like, listen, bro, I mean, get carried away on there, but, he backed down because, again, he didn't know what to make out of me. I'm a tough guy if I'm the biggest, wuss on this earth, but he didn't want to challenge it either. And then,
Right, he didn't want to take
after
a
that,
chance.
but the original premise of, what we're talking about back then, again, you could do this stuff and that's just the way it was. But nobody took it,
No,
into
it,
a
it did
personal
carry
level.
over for years,
No.
and it wasn't personal in the respect of when you guys would meet and shoot the shit and talk or whatever. You guys would certainly have no problem doing maybe a seminar together, or you're going to appear at like a GNC or something, or
Well, quite
whatever.
often we'd have to do stuff like that. If you were a leader athlete,
Yep.
You got booked on a lot of things together.
Yeah, exactly.
Or if you worked for the same company, or we did a photo shoot for the NPC clothes, or so there was plenty of instances that you'd be around some of these people. Listen, you didn't have to be best buds, but you didn't have to be mortal enemies either. But again, different time and a different place, bro.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of that, we saw a little bit of your pictures there, and I'll put probably more up post-production type
Cool.
of thing. But you know, if late 90s, early 2000s Bob Cicherillo competed today, where do you think you would kind of measure up in?
Well, that's an interesting premise. It's always a tough one. Like I hate when people compare eras.
Yeah,
Like they
it's
say something like,
difficult.
well, if Arnold was around today, and it's like, well, look at, if Babe Ruth was around today, what would he, and you can make arguments, to and from, listen, well, the competition is a lot tougher, it's a lot deeper, it's a lot this, it's a lot that. Um, the times have changed when it comes into bodybuilding and what they're looking for. Back in the day, up until the Gasperi type era, you wore posing trunks to cover your ass. I
Right,
mean,
right,
nobody was looking at glutes as a body
right.
part, so to say. It was just, it wasn't a thing. So now, unfortunately, that takes a lot of precedence in the physique that some of these guys bring. So, where would my physique rank today? I think I could hang with pretty much anybody out there. Again, different time, different set of
Now,
circumstance,
now,
different
now,
equipment.
could you see yourself, you know, with your mentality that you brought to training?
Right.
Would you adapt it to today's standards? So, I
Sure.
mean, you would, I bet I would hazard a guess that you would, right? I mean, your mentality was all there. So, I mean, would you bring yourself up to these standards and then knowing
Sure.
what you're kind of building from? I think it
Well,
would
I
destroy.
grew up in an era, late 70s is when I started. I grew up predominantly in the 80s in the bodybuilding in the teenage and then, into the juniors and then eventually the nationals. Our stuff was archaic by standards.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, the equipment back then, again, was very archaic. The knowledge was not all there. We concentrated more on training than recovery, again, because we just didn't know any better. We literally beat ourselves into the ground. If I could go back, I would love to see what I would have looked like had I not just buried myself in workouts and
Yeah.
cardio sessions and things. We grossly overtrained and under recovered. So, but arguably the physiques were still better, although they might have been leaner and not as muscular in terms of overall size. But the waists were small, the ideals were there,
Yeah.
and that's just was the sign of those times. I did an interview not too long ago. We were talking about different things, and of course, drugs have to come up always. People, want to know about anabolics and this and that. And I was just being honest. I says, look, we weren't that sophisticated. I grew up in upstate New York. Okay, I'm a young guy. I don't have money, number one. I
Yep.
don't have access to these things, right? I trained natural from 12, 13 years old when I started competing until I was 20. There was no knowledge of gear, even dieting. I never dieted until I got to the junior nationals when I was 20 years old. I just didn't need it. I'm in high school. I play sports. I'm playing football. I'm playing
Yeah. You,
baseball.
you, you were
Uh,
naturally. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but when I did decide to go down that road, you pretty much dictated two things dictated your cycle back then. And it was not based in any science. It was based on how much money you had to buy
Yep.
and
Yep.
what was available. Okay.
Sure. Yep.
And what you would do, quite frankly, was you would have, some hookup somewhere. And let's just say you were going to get some, I don't know, I'll just pick some Sustanon 250s, right? And you would take your $300 or whatever you had, and you would buy as what you could get, or however
Yep.
many they had available for you to purchase, right? And then what you would do is you would backtrack and you say, okay, so I got 14 of these. Okay, so and then you start doing the math and you go, let's see. So if I
Right.
take one every 5 days, that would get me to 4 weeks out. Okay, and that's how you would devise your cycle.
Yeah.
This is what you
Yeah.
would work it on. Again, there was no science involved. We weren't
No,
that
it's just out of
sophisticated.
necessity,
It
what
was
was available.
what did you have them for money to spend? And then again, what was available to you? That's it. So they
Yeah.
give way too much credit for this stuff for back in the day. But um, if I had better guidance back then, again, there was no coaches or gurus or things. And I survived my first years. I came out of the block, pretty fast in 87, 88, 89, 90, 91. I'm kicking ass. I mean, I'm up there just missing pro cards by mere points
Yep.
in
Yep.
a much tougher division and era back then. Because I wasn't winning, I started making changes. And every change I made, I got worse. I was better off when I hate to say it, but when I was just kind of stupid
Just
and doing my thing.
haphazardly going about it. Yeah.
Well, ignorance is bliss, right? Yeah, I didn't know if I was doing. I just thought, you glean what you could from the magazines, you glean what you could from maybe somebody locally that competed or was.
Or Dan Duchesne's underground
This
steroid
was,
headbutt.
bro. This was even. I didn't even know who Dan Duchesne was or his
Yeah.
underground book even existed at that point.
Wild.
Um, so you worked with the guys at the gym. They gave you their best. The guys at
Yep.
the gym were from the '60s and '70s. Didn't have any more knowledge than I did, but
No.
I think what I could have done with more knowledge back then. But how would that do today? I mean, I think given the prop, the training, the knowledge, way better knowledge, not overtraining. I could have hung in there. Absolutely.
I think we'll stop it there. I think we'll wrap it up. It's going to be a crazy weekend for you. I'm looking forward to the O. It's essentially a prep week for you too, I bet, right? So I mean, you
To
got
a
some stuff.
point, yeah. It's. I'm very reliant on the staff, on the production team.
Yeah.
They don't get enough credit because I'm the guy out there, right? I'm the guy with the mic. You're the Olympia guy, all that
Yeah, yeah.
stuff.
But there's a
And
lot
yes,
going in.
and yeah, listen, there's a lot that's on my plate. I have to be able to produce. But make no mistake, if you don't have a good team at backstage, you know who the most valuable guy is out of the entire thing? The expediter right off the stage.
Right,
If
right. Just to
if
keep it
if
going and
that
flowing.
guy if that guy is off his game or not doing his job,
Yeah.
there ain't nothing I can do on this earth because I'm announcing somebody and there's hey, here's Matt Regan.
Yeah.
Matt,
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 hey, 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 where's
yeah,
Matt?
yeah. It has to go smooth.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
those people are integral to what I do.
yeah.
And we've got a very solid team. A lot of us have been in place for many years. Martin, who does the controls and all the backdrop and all that stuff. We've both been around for 20 years now. So we have a
Oh,
very
good.
cohesive team of people and professionals. So makes my job a lot easier. All the rest is off the cuff, people. Yeah, there's no
Yeah.
teleprompter. Nothing is scripted. That's just it's all whatever I want to say and how I want to say it. So
Well, it's fun to watch, and I do want to give those guys their due because they deserve it to pull this off every bloody year. So it's phenomenal. Um, I won't be down there with the team this year, unfortunately. I've got some conflicts, so I'm sad that I'm going to miss it, but maybe next year. Bob, thanks again. I
whoa,
appreciate
whoa,
you.
whoa, whoa. Hey, hang on. You don't get off that easy, bro. Just
Oh,
because this is your
okay.
podcast, I do the same thing you do. So
All right, all right.
So, who are your picks for this year's Olympia? Give me.
So,
It doesn't even have to be like. Give me the winner, obviously, but then from then it could just be a general top six, let's just say, or ten if you got the guts.
I don't know if I have the guts to go all the way to 10, but um, I do have the guts to say that I'm thinking Nick for second. I'm thinking that he's pulling it all in. I'm thinking that
Okay.
he's got it. You know, um, but see, for me, what everybody ta gets their pick, and this guy's going to win. Oh, but they're counting on people being off, and I'm always
Well,
thinking like,
yeah.
okay,
Of
I'm assuming everybody's going to be perfect, right? Because everybody goes in wanting to be their best, right? So,
course.
so,
Sure.
so I'm thinking, okay, so if everybody's perfect, does Nick's perfect beats Samson's perfect? No.
No.
Does Samson's perfect beats Hottie's perfect? Yes.
Yeah.
Um,
So
just
far, so
because
good.
of sheer height and flow with structure and whatever else. But now, does Hottie's perfect beat Nick's perfect?
Absolutely.
I say, see, you would say yes, and
Well, you have to because if we're there's almost two different picks, right? There's the pick of everybody comes in 100%. Everybody for the first time in Olympia history, bro. Everybody
right,
nailed
right,
it.
right, right,
Everybody
right,
was
right, right, right.
100, right? Now, obviously, we know that this isn't reality, but let's just go with it, right?
Let's go with it.
In that instance, somebody like Nick is going to get crushed. Okay. And here's why because they're all structurally better than Nick. When I say all, I'm not talking about the entire Olympia lineup before the people go
But
crazy on
I
me.
I know we're talking
But
about the
but
top.
Samson,
Yeah,
Samson, Hottie, Derek. Okay, there's your top. These are three Mr. Olympias.
yeah,
Okay, who Nick is? Well, Nick did beat Samson some years ago, but that was before Samson was Samson, right?
yeah.
But for all intents, he hasn't beaten any of these guys. So he'd be hard pressed to be again. Everybody's 100%, right? Now you got to throw in other names of 100%. Beirut, who
Yeah,
most people have not seen, but I've had the
yeah.
pleasure of announcing his last three victories in Dubai. And I can assure you, people, you're in for a treat. He's a lot bigger than you think he is. He's not short like Hottie, okay? He's about 5'10,
Okay,
5'11.
okay.
Um, he's got a lot of muscle and he comes in great condition. So you've got Beirut now to contend with. You've got Fitzwater,
Yeah,
who at
yeah,
100%,
yeah.
again, is he better than, well, he probably should have beaten Nick at the New York 2 years ago. Debatable, but again, but he was in the mix in fourth place last year. And then you've got Andrew Jack. Andrew Jack is that's a Mr. Olympia type guy, right? So
He really is. He really is. Like he's got like a sick, insane body. Like his muscle
well,
bellies.
so guess what? What do we have so far? Now again,
Okay, so
this is the 100% competition, okay?
yes, 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 yes. Yeah.
Samson, Hottie, Derek, Beirut, Andrew Jack, and Fitzwater. That's six.
So where do we put Nick then?
I guess he's seventh, or I hate to say it, or eighth, right? Because you've got some intangibles in there. You've got other guys that again are struck. Listen, if Regan Grimes was 100%, okay, now you and I just both agreed that's a Mr. Olympia physique. If Regan Grimes nails his conditioning 100%, is he out of the top five or six? No,
No,
right?
no.
Because again, structurally more sound, bigger, broader, right? So now you
Yeah,
start the 100% rule really puts a twist into this stuff as to who
yeah,
places
yeah,
where.
yeah, yeah. And that's yeah. And so that makes it hard for me to
Well, sure it
bring
does.
bring Nick to closer to first place.
I think if we marry the two and you go, some guys are going to nail it, just like every Olympian, some guys are going to come in off. Okay. And if I go by percentages, um, then you got Nick as high as maybe fourth, because I still haven't beaten any of the Mr. Olympias, and as low as seventh, because again, Martin Fitzwater is a question mark. Beirut is a big question mark because again, even though he's tremendous, we haven't seen him against Olympians.
Right.
So
It's a different ball game. Yeah.
yeah, it's a different ballgame. And Andrew Jack, who again, I don't think people give enough credit to, but that guy is big, muscular, and if he shows up like he did in Texas, what was it, 2 years ago now? I think it was. He's an instant contender. So again, you've got guys in the mix that if they nail it, and again, Regan, again, we haven't seen it, but let's just say he nails it. Listen, at some point, Samson nailed it, and all he did was earn the title of
Yeah, yeah,
Mr.
yeah,
Olympia.
yeah, exactly. So Regan's gonna nail it sooner or later. So and I know you're right. Um, I think I'm going a lot on. momentum, and he's improved, Nick. Um, and
Yeah,
I
but
kind of see.
those two things are irrelevant, bro.
I know, I know, I know, I
What
know.
hey, what round is the momentum round? Come on, Matt.
I know, I know, I know.
Listen, you
You're
can
right,
like
Bob. You're
Nick.
right.
I like Nick. Nick is tremendous. Okay, when it comes to fan appeal, again, people, he's a freak. Speaking of freaks, we didn't even mention like Rubio. Like where's this
Yeah,
freak
yeah, yeah.
end up? Right? Talk about your Marcus Rule type guys, but um, listen, Nick's great for the sport, man. I mean, I was the first one to give him props at the Olympia the last 2 years. That he didn't make it to the show. One year he was injured. Last year he pulled out for whatever reason. But it's a much better Olympia with him in it. Let's face it. I don't care whether you love him, hate him, or Nick has a
100%.
50-50 of fans. There's people
Yeah,
that absolutely love him and think he's the greatest thing and he's going to be Mr. Olympia. And Bob, you're going to be eating it on stage when you announce him.
right, right,
And
right.
then there's people who absolutely despise his physique. So it's an interesting dichotomy. All I know for sure is that this guy is a top guy. He's a top Olympian, and I'll be very curious to see because he could be fourth, he
He
could be
could.
eighth.
He could. And I think that, and like you said, the Olympia's better with him in it, you know.
Absolutely.
Um, well, I mean, speaking of that, this is a very exciting Olympia coming up.
Oh yeah.
Like just because of all these names, man. I mean, it's
Well,
it's
listen, we're just talking about the Open. Listen, you've got a new champ coming with Cbum retiring. You've got a new champ in Classic. Now, is that going to
yeah,
be Mike Sommerfeld? Well, I guess it depends on
it
how
depends
tall
on
is
the
Mike Sommerfeld, right? Because
yeah, yes,
we
yes,
don't
yes.
know, but we're going to know in another day.
Yeah,
You've got Josema, you've got Ramon Dino. He's got Rough Diesel, you got
rough,
Logan
yeah,
Franklin. So
yeah,
you have some tremendous physiques there. One of these guys is going to be the new champ.
yeah.
So
For
you've
the
got a new
first time
champ
in what,
coming
6 years?
there.
That's amazing.
You've got a new champ coming in the women's fitness. Should not say women's fitness. There's no men's fitness, but as you've got a retired champ who's now in a different division
Right.
in Missy Truscott. In the 212, even though Keon is a complete freak and nobody's going to touch him, I tell you what, there's a young kid named Nihat from Turkey who most people don't even know who he is,
I'll have
but
to
I'm going
look
to
him up.
guarantee that he gives a push and a run to Keon, and he's probably not going to beat him, but he ain't gonna lose by much. But I do think he'll beat Clarita. So you've got a top three there
Okay,
in your
yes, yeah, yeah,
212.
yeah. Yep.
And then the biggest trash talkers of all of them aren't in Open, aren't in 212, and aren't even in Classic.
I know
It's
it's
the
the
men's
men's
physique
physique.
guys.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Bro,
I actually,
these
yeah, I
guys
shouldn't have
are
let you go. We should talk about that for crying out
bro,
loud.
these guys are insane, but I love them, man. But they're out there. Um, Listen, you got Jeremy Buendia, who's back, right, with a vengeance. Look, probably his all-time best at the
And
Sasquatch show
dude,
he
you
just
see the
won.
face.
Listen,
That death
he means
mask is
business. There's a reason he's won that, what, three times, four times,
four
whatever it was.
times. Yeah,
Ali Bilal, who's phenomenal,
yeah,
right? Ryan Terry, the gentleman of the sport, who doesn't really have a bad word to say about anybody. All he does is win the last two. So he could easily win three. And then you've got Brandon Hendrickson and Aaron
yeah.
Banks. Listen, Olympia winner, Olympia winner, Olympia winner, Olympia winner. Four out of those five guys I just mentioned were Olympia
Yeah.
winner. And Ali Bilal won the Arnold.
And you know what's happened because of all this? I think people are excited about the men's physique, though. I mean, like
Absolutely.
it's as stacked as it's ever been, but it's as stacked as the Open is.
Oh, listen, you've
It's
got
like it's
again.
got all these top names and past winners all vying for the title. I mean, that's
Well,
huge.
much like the Open, where you've got four Olympia winners with Brandon
Yeah,
Curry added into there, you've got four Olympia winners here, including the best all time. So yeah, the funny thing
yeah.
about the men's physique guys, like this is part of the fun of being on stage with these guys, and I'm closer to these guys than the judges, and I can hear them. When they do the quarter turn, it's actually a half a turn, face
Yep.
the curtain, gentlemen. The amount of shit talking that goes on, bro, when they're facing away from
No
the
way,
audience.
really? Yeah.
Oh, it's absolutely funny because I can hear them, and you can see them. If you watch the video, they'll be kind of left and right, but they're talking a lot
They're
of smack,
gone.
man. And then the funny part is when they turn around again, it's just a big smile on their face.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I wish somebody had a camera that could go around to them when they turn, but it's listen, it's all in good gamesmanship, but what a great competition that's going to be.
You know, it'd be fun if they mic'd them up somehow
Oh my God, that would be.
to catch all that, man.
Yeah, put a big boom
Yeah,
mic out over there, and
yeah. That'd be funny as fuck out there. So, well, I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm gonna live stream this one. I'm gonna watch it, and
yeah, catch the pay-per-view. History will be made once again, brother, on the
yeah.
Olympia stage.
Thank you thank you for the call out stuff. I'm thrilled to have you on the podcast, man. You know, you're carrying the torch for this. You got the passion for it, and this is what I love about bodybuilding. So, you know, I'm glad that you're my first legend, big guy, big guest on my show. So I appreciate you for that too.
Absolutely, man. Well, I'll listen. I'll come back if you'll have me after post Olympia.
Yes,
And
please.
let's see how we did. Let's see how we did for predictions. Let's see how
Yes,
we did
please.
for calling the shots. Let's see if Nick is second like you think,
Yeah.
or not so
Or eighth,
much.
like, or not so much. We'll catch you guys next time.
See you in Vegas.
Ouch! Yeah. Hey. Oh. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Time to pose.
Yeah, it's alright doing a shoot for air going out, so great.
Beautiful, eh? Get the press another week.
Yeah, you look good, man.
Thanks,
man. See you.
I'd like to give a couple of special thanks out there for helping me out for my preparations and realizing my dream of making it to the Olympia stage. First and foremost, I'd like to thank obviously my family and friends for being there in my corner and supporting me all these years. They've been nothing but great to me and stuck with me through thick and thin. And you know, now that we finally made it to the top, it's good that they're all going to be there in Vegas supporting me. And you know, it means the world to me that they're going to be there. And you know, it just makes the whole event that much greater. You know, when you have people that you love that are there by your side. My girlfriend Tiffany Rumley has been nothing but fantastic and supportive, and you know, I couldn't be prouder for her, not only putting up with me, but helping out in any way she can, from meal prep to assessing my physique. My training partner Tom Prince, again, you know, I couldn't have even been here without his help. He helped me get ready for the May shows, and even though, you know, he had a couple problems with having to get some knee surgery that kept him out of the Olympia this year, he stuck by me and made sure that I was at my best, you know, going into this competition. And Chad Nichols, obviously, for his help, being my nutritional, you know, guidance. He's hopefully the guy that's going to be dialing me in, making sure that I'm bone dry on game day, and giving me my best shot to place as high as I can against the best guys in the world. Again, there's just numerous people to thank, but you know, those are some of my closest ones. And you know, just looking forward to going there, experiencing the whole Olympics.